By the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, it is truly an honor to stand before you today and to speak about a lady who truly holds a special place in the hearts of every single person that is present here today. The title of today's event, as you will see behind me, is Lady Zainab Salamullahi Alayha, the epitome of strength. And I want to begin by posing one question to you. From where did this incredible lady draw the resilience and the strength that she had? Where did this tenacity and determination that she had, that was displayed at every step of this journey from Karbala to Kufa and Kufa to Sham, where did this come from? Make no mistake that from the day of her birth, Sayyeda Zainab Salamullahi Alayha underwent a severe training program by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to prepare her for her role in the revolution of Karbala. One of the most famous titles that she has that we know her by is al-Masa'ib. Why? Because from a young age, this lady saw nothing but trial after trial, misfortune after misfortune. But this was her preparation and laid the foundation for the struggles and the strength that she would need to draw upon in the later years of her life. But who were the role models of Sayyida Zainab Salamullahi Alayha, I ask you? Who were the individuals that a young Sayyida Zainab would look at and would see and would say that these are the people that I need to emulate? These are the people that I need to look up to. These are the people whose characteristics I need to assimilate. Who were they? No doubt, the obvious role models are none other than her grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi and her father Imam Ali. Their sense of justice, ethics, equity is unparalleled, unrivaled, undisputed. But two of her most important sources of inspiration would have been none other than her grandmother Sayyeda Khadija salamullahi alayha and her own mother Fatima Zahra. When we look back in history at the position of Sayyeda Khadija, we see a woman who defied the odds in a society that was incredibly misogynistic, to rise to the point where she became known as Amirat Quraysh, the princess of the Quraysh. A woman who had an entrepreneurial spirit, impeccable business skills and management, impeccable work ethics, and such vision and insight that made her the most forward-thinking lady of her time. A lady who was known as At-Tahira, the chaste, the pure, the virtuous. A lady who guided herself in a society where debauchery and promiscuity was evident. And all of this before she even met Rasulullah. A lady who from her flourishing trade business would make provision for the poor of society, who would arrange for the marriage of those in society who were suffering financial constraints. This was all innate in the nature of Sayyida Khadija and inherited by her young granddaughter Zainab Salamullahi Alayha. When she looks at her mother Fatima, she sees a young lady who is forced to age before her time. She sees her mother go from house to house, from door to door in the city of Medina to canvass support for the Khilafah of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. She sees her mother rise with dignity and integrity to deliver one of the most powerful sermons that history has recorded, in which Sayyida Fatima blatantly and without apology exposes those who had the audacity to usurp the right of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Whilst all of this is unfolding before her very eyes, a young Zainab is watching, observing, assimilating, and taking all of this in. But let us not forget that this is the household of revelation. This is the house in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to deliver His holy book. And there is no doubt that Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayha, being the alama and the scholar that she was, would have drawn comfort from the Quranic narratives and the Quranic stories and the Quranic examples which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave within His book. There are no less than 15 women who are referred to in the Quran. Only one though is referred by name, Sayyida Maryam salamullahi alayha. But of these 15, I want to just take 3 today. 3 women in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about their reaction and their behavior in the face of loss, humiliation, and tragedy, which would have been inspiration for Sayyida Zainab salamullahi alayha, being the one who is the walking, talking manifestation of the Quran. The first example that I want to draw on very quickly is the lady whom the Quran refers to as Musa, the mother of Musa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His Quran describes the disposition and the reaction of this mother when she is inspired to place her newborn baby into that casket and cast him into the Nile in order to deliver him from the edict of Pharaoh. For as we know, Pharaoh had declared that any child born to any Israelite would be slaughtered at birth. Divine inspiration comes to her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders her, "An irdi'ihi," suckle your child and cast him into the river. And when you have done what Allah has commanded, "La takhafi wa la tahzani," do not be scared and do not grieve. "Inna radduhu ilayki wa ja'iluhu min al-mursalin." Surely Allah's promise is true. He will return your child to you. Not only will He return him to you, He will make him one of His messengers. One early morning, this lady does as she is inspired to do. She suckles her child, she casts him into the river, but for a moment, she forgets the promise of Allah. The Quran describes the turbulent emotions that arise within her heart as she sees her baby floating away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَصْبَحَ فُؤَادِ أُمِّ مُوسَى فَارِغًا. The heart of the mother of Musa became completely empty, completely void of everything but for the love of her child. And she was in a position where she was about to scream and reveal what she had done when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَوْلَا أَنْ رَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قَلْبِهَا, that we were the ones that tightened her heart. We were the ones that constrained her heart. Ya Zainab, how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constrain your heart on that day of Ashura when you saw what you saw? The second lady that I want to draw inspiration from is a lady known as the daughter of Shu'aib, who goes on to become the wife of Musa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces her to us when Musa alayhi salam enters the land of Madain. And he finds two ladies standing at a distance from the well, waiting for the male shepherds to pass so that they can go and water their flocks. The first off, we see the importance of the physical barrier between the male and the female, the hijab. And what follows is a very respectful discourse and dialogue between Musa and this young lady. But what is extremely interesting about this young lady, this daughter of Shu'aib, is that the Quran presents her as a young woman who steps up in her role to become protector and provider for her family, for her father is known and described in the Quran as Shaykhun Kabir. This is the young woman that is in charge of bringing water and provision to her family. Do we not see Sayyeda Zainab salamullahi alayha assume that same mantle of responsibility and protection after Abu Abdullah is killed? Is she not the one that stands to protect Imam Sajjad alayhi salam? The Quran goes on to describe the modesty and the humility of the daughter of Shu'aib to the point that Allah even talks about the way in which she walks. Do we not see that Zainab alayhi salam was always mindful of the way in which she spoke and which she walked? Even when she was delivering her khutbahs in the bazaars of Kufa and Sham, her hijab, her modesty, her dignity was impeccable. Her hijab was never compromised. The final lady that I want to draw out a similarity with is the lady whom the Quran describes as Imra'at Fir'aun, the wife of Fir'aun, the lady who we know as Asiya bint Muzahim. When after years of witnessing the abuse and the torture that Fir'aun is inflicting upon the Israelites, she turns to him and she says, "Oh Fir'aun, I have disbelieved in you and I submit towards the Lord of Musa and Harun." When Pharaoh hears this, he decides to punish her and torture her severely. He drags her into the middle of the desert. He strips her of her dignity. He forces her to lie on the hot sand. He takes her wrists and her ankles and he ties them. He ties her to a stake. And as he does so, he continues to torture her and torment her. And he wants to force her to retract her statement of rejection of him. The other wives and the concubines and the daughters of Pharaoh are surrounding her. They're looking at her. They're laughing at her. They're torturing her. They're tormenting her. Even the people that are her biggest support are still standing there looking at her because they fear the wrath of Pharaoh. And as she is being tortured, she utters that famous dua that we all know. رَبِّ ابْنِ لِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Oh Lord, build for me next to you in paradise a house. Asiya faces degradation, humiliation, torture at the hands of Pharaoh, but ultimately achieves proximity to Allah. Sayyeda Zainab suffers the same humiliation at the hands of Ibn Ziyad and Yazid. Is she not pelted with rocks and stones? Is a spear not taken and poked into her hips and her waist as she progresses through the bazaars? But she takes comfort in the fact that these events are all happening under the watchful eye of the Lord of the universe, the one who will deliver victory to those who strive in his path. And subhanallah, what victory does she achieve? I leave you with one final point which Sheikh Muhammad Hilli alluded to, but which I will elaborate upon slightly. These words, in her own words, shows that the end result of what she achieved was absolutely worth every single struggle and hardship and difficulty that she went through. As she leaves Karbala on the 12th of Muharram, history records that conversation with her nephew, in which she comforts him and in which she says, "O son of my brother, do not grieve, do not be sad for what you see. For Allah has made a promise with your grandfather and with your father. He has made a covenant with a group of people who are well known by the inhabitants and the angels of the heavens, that these people will raise in this land of Taf a flag on the tomb of your father, Sayyid al-Shuhada. The tyrants of this world will exert every single effort to obliterate the tomb of your father. Yet despite their efforts, the tomb of your father will become more and more elevated instead." This was the vision and the victory that Sayyida Zainab achieved, that made every single struggle and difficulty absolutely worth the pain. وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.